Well, hello, everyone. I want to say thank you for joining us here. My name is Danielle Pillarinos. I'm a biomagnetic paratherapist, and I wanted to bring on my dear friend, Dr. Kathleen Murray. She is my favorite acupuncturist. I don't know how else to say it. She's my personal acupuncturist, my good friend, and my resident traditional Chinese medicine or TCM expert. And I wanted her to join me today and share with everybody a little discussion about the liver.
Hi, Danielle. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
I'm so happy that we're doing this. This is good. I love it. Kathleen and I, like, a lot of our perspectives are very, very similar, and like this seasonality to life and a very integrative approach to wellness. And the other day I was like I put a castor oil pack on my liver and I was like, oh, it's the fall. Like I should see if Kathleen wants to come and talk to me about the liver.
And I said, of course.
Yes. So we're going to go over a little bit briefly, or, we're going to try to keep it brief. Talking about the liver health from both of our perspectives. Kathleen's really going to expound for us TCM's perspective of the liver, and then I'm going to bring in a little bit more of like a functional, like wellness approach to the liver. So I'm going to let you start, Kathleen. Please tell us about the liver.
All right. So in TCM, the liver is not only the organ liver, but also has a lot of other functions. Its most important job is to what we call control the flow of blood and qi. So qi is our word for energy, life force, that sort of thing. When we talk about controlling the flow, that means that, well, the important thing about the flow of blood and qi is that it's always smooth, appropriate for the season, appropriate for the body, and appropriate for the activity. So of course, if you're doing something really like you're running a fast race, your blood and qi needs to pick up the pace. And the heart's involved there too, but the liver is the one who's in charge of making sure it's smooth, making sure there are no hiccups, hitches, blockages. When we get blockages or issues or stagnation with the liver, we get pain, we get emotional stuckness, we get physical issues. So that's kind of the main job of the liver in TCM.
And why do we need to be thinking about the liver at this time of year? Because in my limited understanding of TCM, there are different organs associated with different seasons.
Yeah.
And though fall is not the season for the liver per se, why is it during this time of change, like shifting from summer into fall, that we would be wanting to support the liver and be aware of like, it's just like not as happy?
Yeah, exactly. So the liver's job is to make smooth flow. But the liver's kind of weakness is change. So even though the liver constantly is causing change to happen and for the energy of the body, everything, it gets upset when we ask it to move or change its movement. Right now, we're in a change of season time. So the days are getting shorter at a more rapid pace than they will during the depths of winter. So the liver is struggling. So it's really important that we keep it happy and calm and balanced so that it can do its job for us.
So I think of the liver, and because you've taught me this, I think of the liver anytime there's a change, and especially changes of seasons, like big changes, like winter into spring, summer into fall.
Yeah.
What are some signs then that our liver is unhappy? You mentioned them briefly, but when the Chinese liver is unhappy, how do we have some indications of that?
Okay, so one thing that can happen is, like I said before, we might have pain. We might have a sudden cramp, or if we strain a muscle, sometimes in TCM, we say that has to do with liver qi stagnation. Another way that we know the liver might be struggling is the emotional aspect of life. So the liver is associated with the emotion of anger. That's a translation of a character. It doesn't necessarily mean ragey anger. It means that energy of, think about weed pushing up through the concrete sidewalk. That kind of upward, fast moving energy, that's the energy of the liver. That is, and because we know that, it makes sense why the liver needs to be kind of calmed down a lot, because it's always, that's its inclination, is to be pushing, moving fast. When we start to feel that we're maybe trying to hold down frustration or irritation, we're trying to suppress it, we might feel that in our gut a lot. And that's where the liver is located. It's in the middle, call it the middle heater in TCM. That is a sign to us that our liver is struggling when we're feeling those feelings and we're not letting them out, we're not able to move them, or maybe we're feeling a range of emotions, we don't know which one. Danielle, you mentioned something like that earlier, that you were, you don't know if you're sad or you're frustrated or you're joyful. And yeah, that's another great indication that our liver might need some support.
Yeah. Like well, you just said, when I feel like my liver is acting up, acting a fool.
Yeah.
It tends to be like that roller coaster of emotions where I'm like, I'm not really sure which one of these is happening, but it is very upward and very frustrated and like in the head. And almost like, to me, I start feeling like a bit manicky, like, oh my gosh, like so many things are coming.
Yeah.
And so that's why, I mean, I have my favorite like beginner's point for the liver.
Yeah. That's
because
the
it's like,
expert point
okay, it
too.
just grounds everything down, right? Because it's like this upwelling of emotions.
Yep.
And it's just like, okay, I need this to be not up here. I need to
Not right. Exactly. Get it out of the head, move it around.
Yeah,
Release.
exactly. So my favorite point is liver 3, which is actually on the foot.
Yep.
I don't have a foot. I mean, I have a foot, but I don't have like a foot to demonstrate it on. Kathleen, maybe you could show like on your hand, like if this is the foot.
Okay. So this is a mirror to the foot. Hands and feet are mirrors. This is like the big toe. This is the second toe. The liver point on the foot, liver 3, is between the big toe and the second toe. You'll feel the web of the skin right between the toes. And if you move your finger back, there's a nice little dip or well there, and that's liver 3. You want to, acupuncture points are never going to be right over a bone or right over a tendon. They're always going to be in a spot where you can give a little, your finger can kind of fall in there a little bit. So that's liver 3 on the foot.
Yeah, I love it. And it's tender on a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you can stimulate that with your fingers doing acupressure on that. Or if you have biomagnetism magnets at home, you can put the black one facing the skin on that point on your right foot and the red one facing the skin on that point on the left foot. And I find that just like brings everything out of the head, ground it like into the earth. All right. So we understand what the liver is controlling. It's controlling like our general, which is the same as the physiological liver. Like the physiological liver, this is one of the areas where, because sometimes in TCM, their perspective of an organ is much broader and a little bit different than like the physiological organ. So sometimes it can be hard to understand the connection between the two, but I feel like the liver is very direct and easy to understand because the liver controls like everything in our body.
Right.
It is so important for our circulation. It's important for our metabolism. It's important for detoxification. It's like, that's just anger, even the emotion, like you said, that's pretty well known that's associated with the liver. You can think about an angry drunk, because if you're drinking alcohol, like that's really stimulating the liver. It's a lot of stress on the liver. And so that's one way I've always told people, like, you can remember that's the emotion of the liver. Because we all know people that are like, oh, they're great. And then they drink it.
That's right.
So great. So we understand now that the liver like is controlling this, the chi and the flow of everything. It doesn't like change. And when we have that backup, we have a backup of emotions. We can start having pain. Would you also associate that with like a lot of flushing upwards into the face? Or no?
That's actually liver yang rising. That's when the liver yin is depleted, or the liver is overtaxed or hot. We see it flush to the face. That's exactly one of the signs of liver yang rising.
So that if you have individuals that get like this heat headaches, like rising heat headaches, sometimes also known like you can have like Kundalini syndrome, like this idea that the energy is like flowing up but getting stuck. It can't move back down.
Right.
So all of that is connected to the liver.
Yeah.
So how do we take care of our liver? how do we, from a traditional Chinese medicine perspective, I know we're saying TCM, but I want everybody to know that's
That's
what that
okay.
means. So they, um, from a TCM perspective, how do we take care of our liver?
Yeah. So in TCM, it's always important to be drinking a lot of water. So Danielle, do you have a rule of thumb for how much water a person should be drinking each day?
I mean, it generally is like generally people say like half your body weight in ounces.
That's what I say the same thing. So about take your body weight in pounds, cut it in half. That's about how many ounces you should aim for. Of course, drink more if you're exercising, moving a lot, that sort of thing. Also important to think about is what season we're in and what foods are growing right now. What foods are coming into harvest. So the liver is a little bit susceptible to what we call the sour flavor. So the sour flavor can be anything like fermented foods, some citrus, lemon is sour, the things you think of as sour. Sour is wonderful. It's nourishing. It's helps the body work properly. It helps our digestion. And so we don't have to avoid it completely. We just want to be mindful of what season we're in. So right now, as we're moving into winter, a time where things are moving more slowly, including our bodies and our digestion, we just want to make sure our sour foods intake is at a modest level. So we don't want to just be eating fermented foods all day long, or drinking a bunch of, lemon water, something like that. And so, yeah, so that I would say food and water are really important for the liver. And then, as I mentioned before, the emotional aspect of the liver. If we are having feelings that we're struggling with, we're not able to express, we're not able to let out, it's important for us to work to find ways to help those emotions move. Emotions are energy, just like our breathing, our blood, everything else. This whole process here is energetic. So emotions are part of that. And we do not want to let them get lodged in our body. That can cause all kinds of issues, not just emotional, but also pain and problems with our bodily processes.
Okay. I love it. I didn't understand that sour because from my herbalism perspective, it's like a more traditional European, though it has some influence on TCM and Ayurveda. I didn't realize that was tough for the liver. So that's new to me, but it makes sense because sour is generally like cooling, and we're moving into a cooler season, so we don't generally need to be cooling off in like a cooling season. Cooling and astringent, which you brought up.
Yeah.
And I think what I tell people, if you're going to start adding fermented foods, like literally like a forkful is enough. Like you don't need to have like a whole half cup of sauerkraut with your, with your meal. That's like a lot for your body to handle. But, like a forkful of sauerkraut with, let's say you're having like an animal protein that's fatty, that's going to be beneficial and help with it. It's all about the balance.
The balance, exactly.
And I think I would incline, well, let me talk, since you brought up food, I'm going to bring up food because this is one of the things I want to talk about for supporting our liver. I don't know if I don't want to overgeneralize what people know, but the liver is really important for detoxification. And there's two phases of detoxification that the liver does, phase 1 and phase 2. And each one of those phases does something different and requires different like components to make that happen. Like they need different nutrients, different minerals to have that happen. And I'll do the illustration of like when you clean your house, or at least when I clean my house, I'm cleaning and like it looks worse before it looks better. That's phase 1. Phase 1 starts breaking things down and actually makes it more reactive into reactive molecules. So that actually makes things like a little bit worse. And then phase 2 comes in and nicely like packages everything up and puts it away. And so it cleans it out. So a lot of times people do not have proper phase 2 support and detoxification. And that's where they'll like start experiencing feeling like they're detoxing or herxing, that kind of stuff, is not having enough phase 2 liver support. And two of the best ways to support that is through amino acids, so proper protein intake and sulfur. And what is in season this time of year is sulfur-rich foods. That is all of our cruciferous foods. So we have all of the broccolis and Brussels sprouts and cabbages and collards and kales, like all of those things that are coming in and are readily available in the fall. those are perfect for your liver. Please eat them to your content.
Yeah.
Please cook them to make them more digestible. That's like when I thought of sauerkraut, I'm like, I feel like I would prefer if somebody's going to eat something fermented in the fall, that it would be like a sauerkraut versus drinking kombucha, which is like more of like a refrigerated and cold and cooler and
Yeah.
stuff. Right.
Agree. Totally.
Yeah. So that just having that balance and understanding that, but yes, please stock up and eat as many as you would like of sulfur rich vegetables. Obviously, this is not medical advice. Like we're educating here. So you need to know your own body and always talk with a physician before you start anything. But for most people, it's pretty safe to start eating more veg. Like that's something I think everybody can be like, yeah. And protein, especially for women. Most women do not eat enough protein, and aiming for somewhere between 20 and 30 grams per meal. That's like a really good number to aim for to stabilize your blood sugar, to help with like the liver detoxification, our muscle growth and maintenance. It's just like some nice general concepts of nutrition to keep us healthy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything else you want to tell us about the Chinese liver?
No, I'm looking forward to learning how to use the castor oil packs, which I've never done myself.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they're one of my favorite things. Well, I wanted to talk, there was 3 things I wanted to talk to you about today, or in general for liver, and it was food. So thank you. I got sulfur in. And the other one is castor oil packs, and then using your magnets for your liver. So let's talk about castor oil, because that's where this whole discussion started. I use castor oil packs on the regular, multiple times a week. Castor oil is one of those practices that there really isn't too much of. Like most people can tolerate doing it daily if they want. It has to, and I think you and I always resonate on this because we're both obviously women, we're mothers, we have families, like not overwhelming people. Like if wellness is overwhelming, nobody's going to do it. So how do we make this not overflow as a plate? So castor oil packs are one of those things that I think can fit in, because I do it. I'm kind of like I have a little hack for it. Because technically when you do a castor oil pack, you're supposed to leave it on for 1 to 2 hours. But I don't know about you. I don't have 1 to 2 hours to be laying around during the day. That just doesn't exist in my time. I would love to. That would be amazing.
Right.
But that's not a reality for me, and it's not a reality for a lot of people. So what I recommend doing is your castor oil packs when you go to bed. So I'm going to bring out Buck. That's my mannequin. And I'm going to demonstrate where the liver is. So we know where to put the castor oil pack, where to. I'll show you, and then I can explain a little bit more. But the castor oil is very, very effective to encourage lymphocyte production. So for our lymphatic system, and the lymphatic system is a part of our immune system. It's also a part of the circulatory system. So it is like all of this good fluid that all of the tissue gets bathed in. And it's like, oh, because of its immune interaction, it's like, what's happening here? Is there inflammation? Is there an infection? Like it's kind of like this sentinel to the body of what's going on. So we want our lymph flowing. Super important for detoxification. It helps keep our liver happy, because our liver is very, it's also like just warming and nourishing, but it's like very calming. And the other thing about castor oil is it's anti-inflammatory. So if you have inflammation, if you have a lot of heat in your liver, right, like it's anti-inflammatory. It's going to help with that inflammation. It's also known as an analgesic, which means it's a like pain reliever. There's some studies showing that it's about on par with like your over-the-counter analgesics like Tylenol. Wow. For recovering from like an injury or something. Like castor oil packs on that area of the body. It's also very antimicrobial, antifungal. So all of these things, it's like a very cool oil. It's at the right osmotic value. I don't know how, I forgot what it's called, but the thickness of it is just right where it penetrates the skin, and it actually gets through the top layers of the skin and gets down to where the capillary beds are and the lymphatic vessels are. So it's very cool. It's been used. Most of the castor oil is produced in India. So it's been used in Ayurveda, which is the traditional medicine of India, for thousands of years. And it's kind of just always used as that. I'm really just talking about topical application of castor oil, because I don't want to get anybody's belly not feeling good. But it is also traditionally used as a laxative and to stimulate labor. But I'm really just talking about it from this perspective of supporting the liver, detoxification, and your lymphatic system. So incredibly important for the liver. I also encourage people when they do their their castor oil pack, not just to put it on the liver, but also the lower abdomen. What we have down there is called the gut associated lymphatic tissue, gut associated lymphatic tissue, GALT. So a huge part of the lymphatic system is in the lower abdomen. So if we see a lot of like lower abdomen bloat and distension, and it's like not gas, it can be the stagnation of lymph that's happening there. And the tissue can kind of get hard and dry. Which I think Kathleen and I are going to talk about in another video. An external application of castor oil there has been shown to increase the passability of stool. So if you're constipated, it's not making it so you go more often or pass more stool, but it makes it so it moves more easily, like it softens it.
Great.
Which is really
important.
So let me, any kind of castor oil. I use Queen of Thrones as a castor oil that I usually use, but any kind of organic castor oil, please use that. I like it in glass bottles because we just don't need the chemicals of plastic leaching into anything, especially because castor oil helps drive things deeper in. Right? So we don't want chemicals in castor oil to be driving deeper into our bodies.
Yeah.
And then you can use any kind of cloth. This is just like a plain, this is wool, but find one that isn't itchy and doesn't irritate you. It can be flannel. The main purpose of the castor oil, like the cloth, is to, because the castor oil is very, very thick. Think molasses-like texture to it. You just don't want that on your clothes and ruining things. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So you do like about a quarter size amount on your hand, and then you're gonna rub it. I'm gonna pull in Buck now. Move my chair. You're gonna put it on the liver. You see me and my buddy Buck.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so the liver is on the right side of the body, underneath the ribs. So our body is very intelligent and it wants to protect the most important things. We only have one liver. So it protects our one liver with the bones more than just the muscles down here of our intestines. Okay. So the liver is up here. If you're down here and it's squishy, you're not at the liver. Okay. When you do your castor oil pack, you want to apply it all up here to the liver, like up underneath the breast on those bones, and then navel and lower abdomen also. Okay. So you would take your castor oil, rub it on. I just kind of rub it everywhere. I put a little bit on my navel. That's like an Ayurvedic practice. And then you just put your cloth over it. Oh. Rub it over. And then the reason this popped in my head recently is because cooler seasons finally here, and I then put my heating pad on it. So how I get this to all work like really nicely and quickly in the wintertime, or I just get castor oil packs in my life in general, is I do it before I go to bed. I put my castor oil on, I put my cloth over it, and then I put my heating pad on. My heating pad has like an automatic 2-hour shut off, and I just go to sleep.
Oh, that's great.
Right? Like I'm like, okay. I'm getting this detoxification at night anyways, which is when the liver, that's
right. Yeah.
In TCM, the liver's, there's different times of the day that they say each organ is kind of more active.
Yeah. Yeah. For the liver, it's 3 to 5 a.m. I think. Yeah. So really, yeah.
At night. So for detoxification, I always say any sleep you get before midnight is worth twice the sleep after midnight. So letting your body really rest and doing that before you go to bed. And now that it's gotten cooler, I was like, oh, I'm going to put my heating pad on because it's not like too hot. So that's castor oil packs. Like they're really, really easy. You just put the oil on, put your pack over it. If you're very, very sensitive to EMFs, you can always get maybe a heating pad that's low EMF, or you could do a hot water pack, or like those little bags of beans that you like microwave or like heat up. You could always use that because the heat is going to help it penetrate. And it just feels really nice. I will say, if you do have time and you do it during the day, it does give you a little bit more energy. Not enough that it's going to disrupt your sleep, but if you're I have taken some times during the day to do it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just laying, I'm so tired. And maybe it's just like laying down.
Right. Right.
But you're like, oh,
that makes sense though.
Yeah, it just
Nourishing,
it'll
smoothing the
support it.
liver releases anything that's been kind of held up and stored and stuck. So it's going to feel like movement and energy. That makes sense from the TCM perspective too.
There you go. So that is castor oil packs, but they're super important. Like I said, liver, lymphatic, or digestion. For women, breast health, super important for that because we need the lymphatic system of the breast to be flowing well. Some individuals who are prone to cysts in the breast will actually do castor oil packs on the breast because it's going to help move that lymphatic tissue. Okay, so move the lymph that might be causing, there might be a little block in one of those little lymph vessels, and that's kind of backing up and creating this fluid-filled cysts. So you can do that also. Anywhere you kind of are having cysts, you can definitely try castor oil to help flush it out. So castor oil pack. The other tip that and sometimes I like stack them.
Yeah, the May.
Because I'm like that's my like anal retentive compulsive. I was like, how do I make this the most effective in the least amount of time?
Called efficient.
Yeah,
Efficient.
there you go. Thank you. That sounds so much better. Efficient. Is to use magnets on your liver. Okay. Again, this is supporting our liver, which is what most of us need. We need support. I'm kind of tired of seeing people doing detoxification that is incredibly draining.
Yeah, it takes a lot of energy to detox. The body has to make that happen.
Yeah. And I think especially marketed towards women are these ideas of like, you are going to take this and only subsist upon liquids. And then you are going to be running to the bathroom a lot. And you're going to be like draining everything out of your body.
Right.
And most individuals are already completely stressed out.
Right.
Their bodies
Right.
don't have anything else to like give.
No,
And
that's right.
yeah. And then we're like purging everything out. So that's why I like castor oil to support the liver because it's nourishing it and supporting detoxification in an upbuilding way. That's why I like TCM. It's supporting the organs so that they function better. And the magnets. Why I like using them to help support, because when we're using the magnets on the liver, what it's doing is increasing oxygenation and blood flow so that the cells are getting what they need to what they basically need to function the best, right? Like our lowest or smallest functioning unit of the human body is the cell. So what do we give the cell what it needs? Well, it needs food and water and air. Most of us.
It's like,
and how does it get that? Through blood flow. So again, the same place that I showed you on Buck, like that liver. So your liver's behind the ribs on the right side. And maybe that's like confusing to people. I think I'm saying behind the ribs, but
it's kind of, it's a little bit under the ribs,
yeah,
right?
the ribs protect it.
Yeah.
So the liver is like back here. So when I say behind, that's what I want to mean. But when you're doing your castor oil pack, you're going to be putting it like on the lower
on the rib cage.
Correct.
Right under the
magnets. You're going to have them. This is what it's going to look like facing the skin. It's always a little confusing about magnets, but black more towards the head, red towards the feet, facing the skin, right on that, like right over the rib cage there. That's how you place it to help support your liver.
Wow.
So you can throw that on top of your castor oil pack. For women, it's kind of nifty because if you're wearing any sort of underpinnings that have an underwire or a strap here, you can tuck your magnet up underneath.
Tuck it in. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And it will hold it directly in place, like where they need to be. And you can just have your magnets on for about 15-20 minutes. You can leave them on longer, like some, put them on. If let's say you're not doing it with your castor oil pack, but you're washing the dishes or you're reading or working on the computer, tuck it up underneath there. Give your liver a little love and support.
Can you use the castor oil pack and the magnets at the same time, or with that?
You can. I would do that more like with a hot water bottle over it. Like if you have
nothing.
In the summertime I did it because I wasn't using heat on my castor oil in the summer. It was unpleasant.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's enough body heat that was being generated and like from the blankets, and maybe it wasn't being as effective as if you put heat on, but I still think it's better than nothing. And in that case, I would put my magnets over it. But those are just like some really easy ways. And can we say, and I can't wait for biomagnetism to reach the level of acknowledgement that acupuncture has. Yep. Acupuncture is accessible, like very accessible. not only are there a lot of acupuncturists, a lot of times insurance now covers acupuncture, like a lot of
Yeah.
insurance plans. So please check into that. If it's not, if either of those aren't there, and you do have to do cash, you can always talk to, a lot of times offices or acupuncturists will have like discounted plans for multiple, or there's
Yeah.
community acupuncture.
Yep.
And community acupuncture tends to be pay what you can, generally in like the $20 to $30 range.
Mhm.
It's kind of not as in depth of a session as you would get, but it is better than nothing,
Yep.
right? And you're
Make
gonna
use
feel
of it
better.
and still benefit.
Yeah, at like a really, so all of these things are super, super accessible to people. Acupuncture, eat your veg with sulfur in it, you know, kale,
Yeah.
collards, cabbage. Cabbage is super cheap. Even at the farmer's market, even organic versions. Magnets are really accessible and
Mhm.
expensive, $25 for a pair. They
Yeah.
last you know,
And you're making biomagnetism accessible with your ordering magnets in your video collection, right? So that's
try
really
to. Thank you.
amazing.
And castor oil. So all of these are really easy, accessible.
Yeah.
So show your liver some love.
Yeah.
And if you feel like your emotions are a little like extra up and down, it's a change of season. Go out for a hike.
Go
Go
for a
like
hike, do some deep breathing, whatever feeds you. That's the way, that's what you should be doing. What feeds your soul and your spirit
oh, I like that.
in this
This
autumn
is a nice
season.
season. And kids, I think this is good too for moms because kids are kind of back in school. So we have like a little more space again to breathe. So you can say like, oh, what I have, like, maybe I can take that extra 30 minutes today and like
Yeah.
read my book or garden.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, Kathleen, thank you so much for joining me today. I really,
For
really
having me.
appreciate it. And Kathleen and I will be back because, well, we have lots of things to say.
We do. Always.
But thank you so much for joining me, and I appreciate it very, very much. And have a beautiful, beautiful day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.